Hey, everybody out there, welcome back to 91.8 The Fan. I am your host, DJ Christmas, and I have with me a very, very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, Chris, this is Daniel Ingram.
Awesome. And Daniel, I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there know what you do, but for those who are somehow still unaware, could you explain a little bit?
Sure. I'm a composer, and my specialty for the last, 5 years has been writing music for animated series and songs as well.
Very cool. Yeah. And what sort of series have you done?
The first cartoon I worked on was called Puka.
Oh, and yes.
Do you remember that show? I don't know if you saw it. It's a Voos show, and it was kind of like a very cool version of Hello Kitty. It's like the Korean version of Hello Kitty. It's really quite cool. And that was an amazing show. And then the second show I worked on after that was called Ricky Sprocket. And that only lasted one season, but it was actually a really neat show too. It was by the creators of they won an Oscar for their short, and it's just falling out of my head right now, the name of that original short. But anyways, David Fine and Allison Fine, they're a couple. They made that. And then after Ricky Sprocket, the next show I did was Martha Speaks, and that was my first cartoon series as the headlining composer. And following Martha Speaks, which is ongoing, I started doing I did a movie called Kung Fu Magoo, and I'm doing Pound Puppies right now, and I've been working on My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, since it began last year.
Oh, you said the secret word. And for some reason, it's sort of hard to explain. My Little Pony's picked up a really, really huge cult following.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that hard to explain. It is such a cool show.
Friendship is magic, and that seems to be the only explanation that we need.
Mm-hmm. I think that everyone knew going into it, it was a really special show. And when I was asked to even just put my original demo submission together, I just like the people coming together, knowing Lauren's history, Lauren Faust, who was the creative kind of producer on that series in season 1, and the people I've been working with, Sarah Wall at Studio B, and I'd worked with Jason Thiessen also on Puka back in that first show. I just knew with everyone coming together, it was going to be awesome. So I don't think it's such a huge surprise that it's as big as it is. We knew it was going to be something good.
And have you seen any sort of musical differences with My Little Pony as opposed to series that you've done in the past?
I think every show I do is quite, it's so far for me, every show has been quite significantly different, from a musical perspective. And I think that's partly because cartoons, you're exploring all the time for what is the identity of this show going to be. And every time they make a new show, they think, well, we want our show to have a bit of a unique sound. We want kids to hear it in the other room and know what's playing on the television just from the way it sounds. And sorry, that's my mail program going off. So for this show, I think it was different because it's more ambitious from a songwriting perspective. In the past. Sorry, is there something's kind of breaking up? Can you hear that?
No, it sounds normal to me.
Sounds good? Okay. I'm hearing this weird feedback, sorry. Anyways, the songwriting perspective on that show, they said, listen, we want to go big, carte blanche, let's do big productions. And so that's new from a musical perspective for me because I was able to really go beyond the normal little ditties that happen in cartoon shows, just characters on screen singing for a few seconds, and it's just kind of not something anyone pays much attention to.
Yeah, you've had the chance to adapt some other songs and turn them into really big musical numbers. I think one of my favorites is Art of the Dress.
Oh yeah. It's funny. The writers love to identify, like what can we do here that kind of do it like a not really a parody, but just something that's sort of inspired by. So that's something that they do, and then they come to me with their lyrics that, in that case of Art of the Dress, are structured around that song. And I listen to it. I try to listen to it once, and I kind of go, okay, I want to. There's a certain rhythm to it that suits that references like the Sondheim, but I also try to see if I can do something different with it, and because it can't be too close. I don't want it to be an actual parody. I want it to be a unique song in its own right. I want it to suit the show. And I think with Art of the Dress, like we approached it from like a more of a pop perspective and went completely in a different direction by about the midpoint in the song. And so yeah, that impetus is really neat for me to hear those inspirations and bring those in. But I'm always also love it when I get the opportunity to just do something from scratch and not have to try to be balanced between those two worlds, because that can be sometimes a bit difficult, doing something original that's also based on something that's already been done.
Right. And that is something you have to watch out for. You don't want it to become a parody. You want it to be, for lack of a better word, more of an homage.
In this instance, yes. Sometimes it is a parody. Sometimes it's like, hey, let's make something that's really like the 80s song, the Cutie Mark Crusader song. That was actually meant as a parody.
Right.
We didn't actually have a reference for what the song was based on, but the idea was it would parody something cheesy from the 80s, and so some cases it's really kind of fun to try to do that and say, like, how can I make this just really funny? That parodies that. But in these songs, we're actually trying to not parody it so much. And you're right, do an homage and also create something distinct for the show.
Right. And especially with songs like Winter Wrap Up and At the Gala, it comprises a good chunk of the episode.
Yeah, those those are long songs for a cartoon these days. You hear that in Family Guy. You do get shows where they do these big musical numbers, and I think in the last few years, songs have become really revered in television in general. I mean, even just like the popularity of a show like Glee and some of the new shows and even American Idol and stuff like that. People do love songs, and on My Little Pony there was a tradition in previous iterations of the series of always having songs, like almost every episode. And so I know they want to continue that tradition, but also push it farther. So instead of a 1 minute song, with those, like with Winter Wrap Up and At the Gala, I think those are pushing 3.5, 4 minutes. And in a cartoon series, that's pretty ambitious.
And have you ever had any difficulties working with the singers for those?
That, yes and no. Yeah, the singers who are singing on all the songs are great. And in fact, the challenge wasn't so much in working with the singers, because they're amazing professionals, but finding the right singers. Because there's this balance between, all right, are we trying to make a character here, or do we want them to sing like a character who might get more of that humor across, or do we want this to sung very professionally? And on shows like Martha Speaks, it was always like we actually had to get Tabitha St. Germain, who plays Martha, who's a very good singer. I did some country songs for her, and they were supposed to be very, like, I wanted them to sound like good country songs, and the network came back and said, yeah, can you re-record these and just make it more like character, more funny? So with My Little Pony, we had that in mind, and it was like, okay, well, at what point are we gonna just say, okay, this is a good character singer, but we want her to sing beautifully versus, just sort of honor the original voice. So as you know, some of the characters are voice doubles, some are the originals, and that was in an effort to balance between those two things. And of course, I got lucky because Ashley and Andrea are great singers, and I was able to find some singers through a bit of research and auditions who could play the other characters and sing a little bit more like professional, like a princess or something that's more like you'd hear on an album.
Right. And it seemed to me that one of the more difficult challenges would be whenever Applejack has an extended singing period, because you also have to work the accent in there.
Right. I think that's right. So Ashley is the only one who sings on both of her characters without a voice double. And surprisingly, it was never that much of a challenge. She's a professional singer as well as a voice actor, so she sings in a band. And so we get in and we usually do, I think we always did Rainbow Dash first, because it was a little more natural, and then Applejack's a little bit more affected, and so we do that second. And I think I had to do a little bit of EQing on it to make it sound a bit younger. So there's a little bit more processing that happens with Applejack just to kind of create that distinction. But 90% of it is her just able to do that with her voice. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, and it really helps out for the final production of the show when you have talented actors and singers knowing what they're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we're lucky in Vancouver here. We do a lot of cartoon production in Vancouver. And as such, we actually have a very deep base of very talented actors and who get a lot of experience. They work on lots of different shows, so they've got that exposure, and yeah, that's actually very satisfying. And even the little kids are incredibly talented. I wrote, I had to sort of write and produce about 30 music videos on Martha Speaks this last summer. And I didn't write every song, but I wrote a sort of handful of songs, and some other artists around Canada wrote the other songs. But I was in charge of bringing all the kids together and recording with them. And some of them are actors on My Little Pony as well. And getting those kids in the studio and hearing them just belt this stuff and have so much fun with it is probably one of the most satisfying days on the job. Those are the days I really look forward to, is getting in the studio with the actors and singing the songs and kind of bringing them to life, because prior to that, it's only me hearing myself singing them, and that's never as satisfying.
Definitely. And speaking of just having fun with it, you're actually one of the crew members on My Little Pony who knows quite a bit about the fan base.
Yeah, recently, I didn't really actually understand. I wasn't very exposed to it until one of the fans, Austin, emailed me and said, "Hey, do you realize you've kind of got this fan base?" And also, Tech, he emailed me and asked about doing this interview on Equestria Daily, and that was, I don't know, maybe a month ago or so, a couple months ago now, and that was the first time I was actually aware that the show was had that fan base online, and for me, because I'm working on it season 2, I'm excited. my head's wrapped around it. I'm into it. It's sort of fun to get that inspiration to go on and see what people are doing, see what people are saying, and use that to kind of help me, keep up through the long nights when we're working on a deadline, and know that it matters to a lot of people. So it's pretty cool for me to be able to witness that fan enthusiasm.
And one of my personal favorite fan mutations is Eurobeat Brony, which I'm told that you know a little bit about as well.
Yeah, for sure. We communicated, and he sent me sometimes I get to preview one of his tracks and check it out, and I know the other work he does. It's that's really kind of an honor for me. That's the first time in my career, usually with music that takes place in the background on a cartoon series, we kind of fly under the radar. We're not very visible composers for the most part, unless it's primetime adult cartoons like The Simpsons or something. And so to go from that expectation of not really having anyone pay that much attention to the music to suddenly having really talented artists like Eurobeat Brony, feel inspired enough to take these songs and really put the time in to create. When he works on these songs, I notice I can hear the influence, I can hear how he integrates the melody. It's very clever, and it's often sometime in the middle of the track. It's not even in the beginning, and he kind of does his own thing for a while, and then it brings it in, and then it goes into its own direction, and they're very creative, and that's just super exciting for me to go, hey, wow, there's something I did that inspired something totally new. So that's really cool.
Definitely. And I remember reading on PonyChan, I browse there every so often, that somebody once said that they can identify which episode is just from the initial background music.
Sorry, can you say that again?
They can identify each individual episode from the background music at the start.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Will does the background music, and Will Anderson, and I've had the play, I get to go into the mixes sometime and hear what he does on the show, and I mean, he is a really talented guy, and I think his music is another one of the reasons why that show is just one of the many sort of reasons why artistically it comes together, and it's such a satisfying satisfying show. And I know he's put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it this first year as well.
Definitely. But I think we're going to take a quick musical break here, but when we come back, we'll have more of Daniel Ingram. So keep it tuned to 918 The Fan. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
This is a public service announcement. It has recently come to our attention that not wearing shirts causes Sassenach cancer, double herpes, and super diabetes. To prevent these made-up illnesses, 918 The Fan is distributing protective clothing specifically designed to protect you from hazardous materials through a patented process that we won't explain because you'll probably just be too stupid to understand this totally not fake or made-up science. To get your protective garments, simply head over to 918thefan.com and click on the apparel button under store. Remember, only 918 The Fan's protective shirts are 100% effective in protecting you from the radiation given off by death crystals and dysentery lasers. Don't settle for cheap imitations. It could cost you your life.
Hey, everybody out there, welcome back from our musical break. I'm still here, and I still have my very special guest. Would you like to give everyone a sign of life?
Oh, hey everybody, how you doing?
There he is. It has happened before. We've come back from break and we're like, hey, we're still here. Here's our special guest. And our special guest has been disconnected.
No, still here.
That's good, because then I would just look silly. But I've been looking around, and I've seen a couple fan questions, and we know that you do have contracts that need to be obligated. But to the best of your ability, I was hoping that you could answer a couple of them.
Sure, let's get, I can listen, and I'll do my best.
Awesome. I saw one here on PonyChan earlier. An anonymous asker was wondering if you had anything to do with the new My Little Pony commercial, and if there were more of them on the way.
That's a good question. I was surprised. The answer is no. And in fact, I don't. When I asked the producer at DHX Media about it too, I was like, "Hey, did you know about this commercial?" And they didn't know. So it was something done at the hub through their own creative team at the network level. So yeah, the short answer is I did not record Equestria Girls, but that is my singer singing on it, Shannon, who sings for Pinkie Pie.
Mm-hmm. And we had a question here in our live chat. A few people were wondering what sort of tools, instruments, hardware you use when you're working on music.
That's a great question. It's kind of a tech head question, so you have to bear with me if this isn't something that interests you at all. But I write music in Logic Pro, version 9 now, and I also run a second computer with Pro Tools. And the way that works is, and then in the writing computer on Logic, I have 3 other PCs hooked up that have a preloaded template of sounds. So that's kind of my orchestra. And then within Logic, I have, all my pop instruments and channels that I would use. And then in Pro Tools, that's where I record the music into Pro Tools, and we deliver, generally in the TV business, you deliver a Pro Tools session once your music is done. So that's essentially the core, the core hardware and software that I'm using.
That's pretty cool. You have like a computer hub of all your different programs going on.
Yeah, I run a 5-computer network to work in the television. And that seems to be just the right amount for me.
Have you ever had to work off of just one or maybe even 2 and it just wasn't working out for you?
Well, okay, if I'm writing it depends on what I'm working on. If I'm writing a pop song, I'll just write that on my one Mac. And it just doesn't require the same kind of power that you need if you're writing an orchestral number, where there's like a lot more instruments playing. So I can get away with it one computer if I'm just writing a song. If I'm actually sort of syncing to picture, writing background music, I definitely need Pro Tools running. And if I'm writing orchestral, syncing to picture, then I will need all 5.
So it just depends on what you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. If I had to just write a song, even like a sketch of a song, I'd just take my laptop and head off with a microphone and an inbox or something, and I'd head off to a cabin or something, and I could just record it that way because it's just a demo. But for fully produced stuff, that's kind of the breakdown of what I would need.
And has technology sort of advanced since you started working where you've noticed a huge difference in the sort of tools that you would use?
Oh, definitely. I feel like I was very lucky in terms of timing for how the technology has kind of peaked in the last 5-6 years. I mean, nowadays you can buy amazingly, impressive sample libraries. And most of the people, when I play for my clients some of the orchestral stuff, like on these songs, they ask, like, is this a real orchestra? Like, they can't actually tell. I mean, I think most people who listen to orchestral music could still tell it's synthetic, but it's pretty exciting in the last few years with sample modeling and Wallander, and that's one of the software instruments I use, the Wallander sample modeled instruments, and just everything from native instruments and Vienna symphonic libraries. You can really, in the last few years, you've been able to cross that bridge and make some pretty authentic sounding music out of software.
Definitely. And we just have a few more questions here, most of them regarding Season 2, but I know we said earlier behind the scenes that you can't really say too much about Season 2, so we should probably say that publicly so everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I can't say anything about Season 2. I could say, I'm allowed to say that I've been doing Season 2, and we've been working on production for a few months now, and a lot of stuff has been done. But the specifics of what songs I've done, I can't unfortunately talk about right now.
Yeah, I think a specific question was something about a commercial with a song from the upcoming Season 2 being in the background.
Oh, that was I think I did a little television interview for a local cable station here this week, and I had some music playing in that TV spot, and I guess somebody listened and thought, hey, is that Martha? Is that My Little Pony? But it was actually just a demo. It was actually a song I wrote for Mona the Vampire playing, and I guess because it was a girl singing, it could sound like a My Little Pony, but it wasn't. And the other song I had in that was kind of a silly country song for Martha Speaks. So unfortunately, in that radio or that TV spot, no, none of that was My Little Pony related. And when I was playing guitar, I was just kind of jamming. They just wanted to hear me play something.
Yeah, not everything has to be 100% related to Season 2 music.
Yeah, only 90%.
As much as we'd like to hear the inside peaks, you can't really say too much.
Yeah, unfortunately, I would love to, but you know what? That's what they call them, spoilers, for a reason. It's kind of exciting to wait, and it's going to be even more exciting just to have it unfold. So, I think people probably at the end of the day don't mind not knowing.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of the fan base will be waiting with bated breath until Season 2 comes out later on this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so am I.
Aren't we all?
Is there any other questions around that I might be able to shed some light on?
Nope. I think that pretty much dispels the mist around anything you can say about Season 2.
Okay.
So, before we wrap up here, I was wondering, I know that you have your own website and social media. Could you direct people towards that?
Sure. I just put up a Facebook kind of page that's sort of like a fan page or a musician page, and that's Danny I Music, DANNYI Music on Facebook, and that's a great place to.
Hey, everybody out there, sorry for that unexpected drop, but I am back, and so is my good friend Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hello. Hey.
And just as we cut out, you were explaining a little bit about your new Facebook page that you had set up.
Right. So that's Facebook/Danny I Music, DANNYI Music. And that's a great spot for people to just go and ask questions. I do check it every day or every couple of days and see what people are saying and leave any feedback. And it helps me a lot because my clients look at it and they think it's pretty cool that it's been a lot of enthusiasm. You can also check out, add my Twitter account, which is Danny I Music as well on Twitter. And I leave, especially when Season 2 comes, I'm going to be putting in a lot more updates about what's happening. And lastly, you can check out my website, which just has some HD clips of stuff I do, and as well, I try to put anything new up there. And that is www.danielingramusic.com.
It's very, very consistent, very easy to follow. No twists or turns along the road. It's
Yeah. You talking about my website?
yeah, your website, Twitter, Facebook, they all have the same Danny I music. That's
Pretty much, yeah.
awesome. But before we let you go, we do have one final question, and that is, would you be willing to participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition?
Okay, what's the tradition?
We ask everybody who comes on the show, voice actor or otherwise, if they would be willing to do a radio bump for us.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What do I say?
Just ask everybody to say, my name is, you insert your name, I do this, you can be as specific or as broad as you like, and you're tuned into 91.8.
And your turn tuned into 91.8 The Fan. Are you still there?
Yes.
Because I'm getting a bit of a cutout here on my Skype. Okay, sounds good.
Yep, and
Let's
we
do it.
live on air just in case there's any bloopers.
Okay, here we go. My name is Daniel Ingram. I'm a composer for television and cartoons, and you're listening to 91.8 The Fan.
Awesome, you got it all in the first take.
Almost. I didn't say you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan.
Oh, that's fine, I don't mind.
Okay.
You've had plenty of people say listening, tuned into, some people give it their own little special twist.
Sweet.
You did fine. It's
Right.
not your forte anyway. Your hand is in the composing.
That's right. I'm not even a great singer, so it's but I'm happy to try it again if you need it. Otherwise, is there any other questions?
Nope, I do believe that's it. But for anybody out there who missed any of this interview, or you're looking for a clean, uninterrupted version, make sure to check out our website because we will have it up there in the next few days. So make sure you keep it tuned to your favorite station, 91.8 The Fan. Everything you want and nothing you don't.